Hi there, welcome to the MLB DFS build. I'm Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith, and what you're looking at in front of you is the DFS Hero projection lobby for everything going on in MLB DFS for this 12-game slate on Tuesday night. If you have not checked out DFS Hero yet, give it a shot. 15% off discount if you hit our link in the video description below. If we help you out in any way in this video, please give it a like and also consider subscribing to the channel. Both those things help us out, help the community grow, let us know that we're doing the right thing and helping you in your process. Taylor, we do have a 12-game slate for the second night in a row, which surely means tomorrow there's only 2 games, right? Because that's how the MLB schedule works. But either way, this is a massive slate, and anything that can go wrong will go wrong based off of last night with some of the pitching. But it also is an advantageous slate because, once again, we do not have many high-level chalky stacks. If we look at the stack IQ at DFS Hero, a lot like last night, the top percentage owned stacks are only at 7%. Yesterday, they were at 6%. So a lot of times you're going to see 13, 14% owned stacks clearly standing out from the pack. And while the Dodgers and Reds are coming in as the chalkiest stacks, that just really tells us it's going to be split across the board. So if you want to differentiate, you can get away from those 2 offenses. But after that, I don't think you need to worry about ownership, and you kind of might not need to worry about it anyways. All right, we're going to keep with the same format we had yesterday and start things off with the pitching. Just kind of go over the guys that we like and that we want to pay up for, any value that we like and all that. So starting right off the bat, the top projecting pitcher is Dylan Cease. He looks awesome. I really want to have him. He's coming in the optimal 44% of the time. He offers more ceiling than anybody else, and he's facing the Rockies in the Pitcher Park. So I know that approach didn't work out last night, but I am pretty locked in on Cease tonight. How about you?
Yeah, he's just obviously better than Randy Vasquez to begin with. So
a little bit.
Yeah, he's also 11K, so you're paying a premium for him, but pretty easy to do that, like without all the obvious high-end bats to pay up for necessarily. I think Cease is worth prioritizing. Colorado's bad, 27% Ks against righties, low walks. That's kind of Cease's one thing is walks, and that doesn't look like something that should be an issue tonight. I think he mowed these guys down just a few days ago at Coors Field, so obviously the park boost going into Petco makes him look fantastic, and he's very obviously the SP1.
Yeah, I think next up as far as safety and ceiling for me is going to be Sonny Gray. He's a little bit steep at 10.5, and he got bombed last time he faced the Brewers. But beyond that game, he's been awesome all year. I don't know how realistic it is to go pay for 2 guys to 10K plus, but it's such a huge slate, and there are kind of under-the-radar offenses that are kind of cheap that I think you can entertain it. But yeah, so the price might get me off of him because I like Cease so much, and pairing them is going to be difficult. But I do really like Sonny Gray in a vacuum. And as far as really expensive pitchers go that I wouldn't be interested in, it'd be Chris Sale right off the bat at 10K, just because the Cubs' projected lineup does not strike out very much. And if he's going to carry ownership, I actually do not hate Chicago as a little bit tiny leverage stack on this slate.
Yeah, I'm not really inclined to pay for 2 10K plus pitchers if I'm paying up for anyone at Cease, of course. Mm-hmm. I prefer Sale to Gray just because I feel like he's a more trustworthy strikeout pitcher in the first place. The Angels have been about the same as the Cubs in terms of Ks this season too, so I don't trust Gray's long-term numbers, or I guess I trust his long-term numbers more than I trust his numbers this season. I think his K rate's likely to come down. And 10.5 is just a lot to pay for him in a more hitter-friendly park, I think. So I don't mind Sale, but among the secondary expensive options, I think I'm more likely to pay for 9,200 Logan Gilbert against the Royals.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, KC has some pop. Not major strikeout numbers in this projected lineup, but I can see why you like him. I don't have a problem with Gilbert at all. Let's see who else stands out.
It's just a price thing. Like, he projects about the same as Gray and Sale, but he's cheaper than both, which is kind of why I'm getting there, I think, on this slate.
Yeah, who else here that actually comes in with a nice projection is standing out? I'm not really seeing anybody that I'm in love with as far, because they're all kind of I guess Waka is cheap with a really nice K matchup, but I don't really feel that's not very safe. But I guess the price is good.
Yeah, he's the guy I'm getting the second most of. Just he's 6'8", and we've talked about Seattle's K issues for a while now. He's not a big source of them in the first place, but it's just the price is right, and I think it's a good spot, good park, and all that. Joe Ross for 5-2 against the Pirates, I think is okay, just because he's a full punt, and pairing him with Cease means you're only paying about 1,600 at pitching or 16,000 at pitching. So I think it's fine punting with him. The Pirates are not a very threatening lineup, even if they did damage yesterday. They strike out a decent amount against righties too. Rodon for 8K, I guess you can make a case for, just because he's looked a little bit better of late. And 8K is not egregious for him, but Minnesota is kind of a threatening lineup. They're also not striking out much against lefties. And then I guess you can make a case for Paddock at 6'5", but don't really want to trifle with the Yankees with a kind of shaky pitcher like that.
No, that's ill-advised. Yeah, it doesn't feel great, but I think right now the most logical pairing is going to be Cease and Waka. You can obviously on this slate go a lot of different directions. Like you said, a punt with Joe Ross, Rodon, Paddock, if you want to, just because the savings. But nothing else really feels amazing. This Diamondbacks pitcher is facing a Reds lineup that does strike out a lot. So you could try that at 6.3. Ciccone, is that his name?
Yeah, Slade Ciccone.
Yeah. So 6.3, I think that's okay. You can try that. But the guys that are really popping are obviously the expensive dudes. Gilbert, as you said. And then Waka is probably looking like the best value. I get Ronel Blanco. I mean, the Athletics. Obviously. Oh, he is. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. 9.5. Okay. Maybe not.
He projects pretty well, but that's just too much, I think.
Not that well for the price, though. Okay. I didn't see that he was 9.5. Oops. I mean, if you're able to pay that and want to pay that and don't like Gilbert, I think he's fine. But yeah, I don't really want to do. I don't want to do it at that price. Hunter Green is good for Ks. I don't really like playing pitchers against Arizona, but I mean, it's all about strikeouts and lasting. So if he can limit the damage, he's viable, although he's a little bit expensive for the matchup too. So I think Rodon is a good call out. You mentioned him. I think he's probably the other guy I would pay up over Waka at this point. But it's kind of a tight pitching pool for me. I think it's Cease and Waka or Cease and Rodon maybe, and then maybe a sprinkling of Gilbert. And I don't hate Sonny Gray still. I know you don't really like it, but I don't mind him. If you find the perfect lineup to punt like offense and go get two good pitchers, I do like him as the second guy in if you want to go that route.
Yeah, I think Joe Ross is another, like I mentioned him, but Pittsburgh, like 25.6% Ks, 111 ISO, 271 WOBA against righties. He's not terrible either, and he's 5'2". So if you're not convinced to play Waka, I think Ross for, 1,600 less is completely acceptable on this slate.
Yeah. All right, let's move it over to the offenses. Look at Stack IQ. Obviously, the Dodgers are the Dodgers, and they're leading the way tonight for ownership, facing Keaton Wynn. Obviously, Oracle Park is not an advantageous spot for bats. So just because the park, I probably am just going to go away from the Dodgers and hope that it's a low-scoring game. The Rays at Fenway, same situation as yesterday. They project really well, and they're chalky for good reason. I do still like them a lot. If I was going to eat chalk up top here, I don't think I actually – there we go. The third chalkiest offense, so that makes me feel a little bit better. But if I was going to eat chalk up here in like the top four, they're the one I would do. But honestly, the team that's standing out the most to me is going to be the Brewers. And that is not just hometown bias. Quentin Priester has some pretty ugly numbers, specifically against lefties. It's a small sample size this year, but it does trend back to last year too. 5.5% K rate against lefties on the year, 208 ISO, 12% walk rate. It's not much better when you go back to last year. 12% K rate against lefties, 344 ISO, 13% walk rate, and honestly, against righties, it's not that much better. So the Brewers look awesome as a stack across the board. And I guess I would lean lefties here.
Yeah. Priester is a ground ball guy, and the Brewers do have a lot of high ground ball hitters, especially the righties, which gives me a little cause for pause, as you say. Yelich, Adames, and Bowers are the only fly ball hitters in the lineup. 2 are lefties, so that's helpful. But if they're going to be owned, I'm just really not getting there that much. I acknowledge that it's a fine spot, but they're not like a clear-cut top stack. There really is none today. Like you said, the Dodgers, but wind's not bad, park's bad, and they're pricey. I'm going back to St. Louis, it looks like. In Anaheim against Detmers, you can run on him. He's kind of a reverse splits lefty, so I don't even hate any lefties like Gorman or Burleson that might crack the lineup. Nude Bar, if they're in there. They've been awful most of the year, but they're cheap in general, and the park is good. So St. Louis looks like a team, sadly, I will be invested in again, but not like way above anyone else. I think I'm kind of neutral on pretty much everyone on the whole slate. So it's kind of a slate where you can just kind of play whoever stands out to you.
Yeah, for sure. I don't have a problem with the Cardinals. I guess because they kind of worked out last night. My awesome deductive reasoning is that I don't think they're going to work out again. But no joke about Detmer's reverse splits here. 293 ISO this year, 210 ISO last year, both to lefties, obviously. 10% walk rate this year against lefties. You can make every bat miss. 33% K rate against lefties. So even if it is potentially a smash spot for the Cardinals, mostly on the left side of the plate, it also could at the same time not be if he is missing bats. So on the other side of it, Detmers is probably viable as an arm today too. But yeah, I mean, honestly, after Boston, it just starts dipping. That's part of why I like Milwaukee a lot. They have a really high projected run total. I think it's like second on the slate. Let's see where they're at. Third. So good projection, good park, bad pitcher. As long as they can get the ball in the air, I feel good about them tonight. Let's see. Moving on to some of the stacks that look good. I think Arizona, as you tick down a little bit, they have a solid run total projection. Not mega owned. And Hunter Green, while he can miss bats, he does have issues with contact for sure. He can get lit up pretty easily, and obviously they have a pretty powerful lineup. So I don't mind Arizona at all. The Braves also are very interesting because anytime the Braves are flying under the radar, I'm going to take notice. They have, I believe, the second best projected run total of the slate. So yeah, I mean, unowned Braves or what looks to be pretty low owned Braves is pretty appealing to me. Who else stands out here for the Smokes?
I like the Arizona call. Hunter Green, like you said, has had power problems in the past. He's kind of cut down on that this season, but it's only like 7 starts, so not really crowning him yet. And he's still a pretty big fly ball guy. Texas is a team that looks okay against Ben Lively, who may or may not be a real major league pitcher at this point.
I can tell you no.
Yeah.
I can tell you not, because I was forced to use them last time against the White Sox, and it went horrible.
It's a pretty high octane offense, of course. They've struggled a little bit. Like Seager's been a little underwhelming. Simeon, Nate Lowe, but the talent's there, and it's kind of a good mix of expensive and cheap hitters. I don't mind. The Reds against Ciccone, you mentioned him, but I think they're a perfectly fine stack against a guy that is pretty mediocre overall, especially against lefties. Cincinnati has quite a few decent ones to throw his way. Headlined by Ellie De La Cruz. Cleveland on the other side of that Rangers game looks decent enough to me, just because they're another team that's a good mix of pricey and cheap bats, stolen base upside with guys like Jimenez, Ramirez, Florial at the bottom of the lineup against Jack Leiter, who's been pretty awful through his first 2 starts in the majors. So Cleveland looks good. And then Houston and Oakland, that game, I can see the merit to stacking both teams. Houston against J.P. Sears, a homer-prone lefty, and the A's against Blanco, who's been pretty mediocre until this season. He's been throwing his changeup more, and maybe that's helped him kind of improve, but I'm not really fully ready to say that he's a pitcher we have to avoid. Oakland is a good cheap stack with enough power to be worth your while, and they do get a nice park boost going into Houston.
Yeah, the nice thing about Oakland is that they're always cheap. I personally, we're just going to differ here on this one. I don't really want to pick on Blanco here with the A's. I love to play the Athletics. I just tend to prefer playing them against Southpaws. But the other thing was, back to Ciccone. I would absolutely take the red side of that game, 100%. I was just mentioning him as like one extra guy only because the Reds whiff a lot. But when you nail it, man, he has issues against lefties for sure. They do have a lot of strikeouts in their lineup, no doubt about it. But 268 ISO against lefties, 13% K rate. He does not walk guys. That's about all he does right. So if they can get some guys on base, I think he's going to have a long night or a short one, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully a short one.
Yeah. So, I mean, hey, if they want to keep him out there, if they want to go full Gilbert against the Twins and just keep him out there, even though he's giving up 8 fucking runs, then that would be fine with me too. So, yeah, I do like the Reds a good deal. In that Oakland game, I'd obviously very much favor the Houston side. JP Sears is pretty attackable. Weirdly, also not quite as bad as people think he is, but he gives up a good amount of contact, specifically hard contact to both sides of the plate. So with a collective 193 ISO for the projected lineup and a very low K rate, 16%, Houston looks really, really good. But as always, whenever Houston looks really good and I play them, they do absolutely nothing. The only good thing about the Astros here, besides everything I said and you said, is that they don't actually project for monster ownership. So the fact that Houston is not owned and is coming in with the number one projection on the slate, that's really appealing to me. So
that's surprising. I don't really get why they're not. Like Sears allowed like 35 home runs last season, right, and he pitched in Oakland for half those games. So, you know, Houston's not a Coors Field, but it is a good home run park.
It's both sides of the plate, man. This year, a small sample size, but 63% hard hit rate to lefties, 36% fly ball rate. So they're going to be able to get it in the air. I'm just seeing a whole lot of green when you look at
Houston lefties. Alvarez and Tucker hit lefties well, so it's a great spot for them. It's a great spot for obviously Altuve, Bregman, Pena, Diaz, the righties here. Bregman hit 2 home runs yesterday. Maybe he's coming around a little bit. Hopefully, yeah, you can argue that's the number one stack on the slate, and they're not being owned like it.
Exactly. So that is pretty interesting. All right, as far as these low-owned stacks, these bottom feeder stacks, you got Colorado with a 2.45 implied run total. Is there anybody here that is like really appealing to you? I'll just start it off. I'll say if Sale's going to carry ownership, I think a little tiny amount of Cub stacks is somewhat appealing for leverage. And also, I don't hate the Twins just because they can hit lefties and have some power. But anything else you're seeing here that stands out?
Not really. I think it's just because the top stacks are unowned enough to where you don't really have to dive super deep. You know, like Seattle against Waka, I'm just going to play Waka, I think. Ditto for Rodon against Minnesota. You know, Cubs, Angels, don't really see the need. I'm getting a little bit of the Cubs, but I'm not really eager to pick on Sale. I just don't feel like you're even getting leverage there. I don't think Sale's going to be very popular. So, yeah, I'm not really diving too deep into the muck.
Let me refresh ownership real quick. It is only 256 Central, so data may not be where it's going to be, obviously. Let's see, projection Chris Sale. I mean, 25% owned for pitching. That's some ownership for sure. Let's see who else is joining him. Logan Gilbert at 22%. If I'm building one lineup, this is just my opinion, and you can obviously combat as much as you want. I am just going to go Cease and Waka. That's my pitching. Waka's cheap enough that I don't care about his ownership, and Cease has such a high ceiling and such a good spot that I also don't care about his ownership. But that aside, I think Sale might be the first pitcher I get away from because he's coming as the second chalkiest arm. And I don't know, am I wrong to fear the Cubs a little bit? I just kind of do. I think Sale might even kind of be due for a bit of a downer game anyways. But yeah, so for me, it's pretty tight. It's going to be Cease and Walker for the most part. And if they fail, they fail. I mean, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm not going to be close to the field on Sale, but the Cubs, I don't know. He's still one of the better pitchers on the slate. I don't think attacking him is something I want to do outside of a large field type of situation.
Oh, for sure, especially on a 12-game slate. You absolutely do not have to. You don't have to stack Cubs to get different. Just don't play Sale if you're not confident in Sale, right?
Yeah.
And then for me, for the stacks, I don't really have any. Excuse me. I don't have any real problem with the top chalky stacks. You can play the Dodgers, the both teams at Fenway. You can play the Reds, the Rangers. I like them all. The Milwaukee just stands out to me first because of their projected run total, because of the matchup and the park, and that they're like 6th in line here as far as ownership. So I think you're getting to a good offense that is in a good spot that just isn't like super, super owned. And then I said that about the Braves and the Diamondbacks as well. So as we wrap up here, what are like the what's the number one or top 2 stacks that you feel like you're going to get to on this slate?
I think Houston not even being on the screen there is just shocking. So I would be inclined to play them more than the field apparently is.
I know. I keep on the Brewers, and the more I'm thinking about it, it's like it's Houston. I wonder if that fluctuates before long.
I just don't think they'll be owned enough to really matter. Like, just play anyone you want with confidence, I think.
Right.
St. Louis, I mentioned being into Arizona a little bit. Texas is toward the top, but again, I don't think they're going to be like chalk or anything. Didn't really talk about Boston, but I am getting them a good amount too against Savali. And I think, even Oakland is viable again tonight.
Yeah, so I think what I might end up doing then is go Cease and Waka, perhaps a 5-man Astros with Brewers as my secondary stack. It depends how it all shakes out with lineups and salaries and everything, but that might be what I end up doing. I'm probably just going one lineup tonight because it's just going to be a sea of madness. But yeah, good luck to everybody out there. Good luck to you, Taylor, and thank you for watching. If we helped you in any way, please give this video a like and also consider subscribing to our channel, the DFS Build. We got an NBA video at the end of this one, and if it's not there for some reason, go hit the channel and find it. All right, thanks for watching, and good luck.